Welcome to my story. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe. And your support means the world.
Amara Ndlovu, 25, had always been fiercely independent and full of dreams. Living in Lusaka, Zambia, she had built a small but thriving art studio, pouring her heart into every design, every brushstroke. When she met Tay Masiko, a charming and seemingly successful businessman, she felt like she had found someone who understood her ambitions and could walk beside her in life. Their love felt perfect, unstoppable, and when Tay proposed, Amara said yes without hesitation, believing this was the start of forever. To support Tay's career, Amara made a difficult choice. She put her small business on hold. Late nights, endless planning, and countless sacrifices seemed worth it as they celebrated together, friends and family cheering for what looked like the perfect couple. Everyone said how lucky she was, how romantic their engagement was, and how she deserved this happiness. On the outside, Amara smiled, laughed, and posted joyful photos, but inside, a tiny doubt had begun to creep in. She noticed subtle things she couldn't ignore. Tay's attention often drifted to his phone. He would glance at it with a tense expression, reply to secretive messages, and sometimes vanish for hours without explanation. At first, Amara brushed it off, telling herself he was stressed with work, that these were normal distractions. But the unease lingered like a shadow, a quiet warning she didn't want to acknowledge. Deep down, she felt something was changing, a coldness around him and his circle that didn't touch her directly, but was there and she couldn't shake it. Amara wanted to believe in love above all else, but beneath the sparkling engagement rings and celebratory smiles, the first cracks in her perfect fairy tale were already forming. The engagement party was supposed to be the happiest night of Amara's life. The venue in Victoria Island, Lagos, was decorated with golden lights that shimmered against the night sky, soft music floating through the air, and guests laughing and clinking glasses. Amara, dressed in a flowing emerald gown she had designed herself, felt a mix of excitement and nervous energy. This was her moment, her love with Tay, her dreams coming true. Everyone was there, friends, family, colleagues, even strangers who had heard of their perfect romance. But then she noticed Tay stepping out, pulling someone aside near the balcony. She couldn't hear everything, but then a few words pierced through, sharp as knives. "I can't do this. I need someone with money. Love isn't enough." Her heart stopped. She froze, unable to move, unable to breathe. The words repeated in her mind over and over. Was she hearing it right? Could he really just say that? About her, about everything they had promised each other? Tears welled up instantly, but she blinked them back, trying to stay composed in front of the crowd inside. And then she saw her. Sada Mondi, Tay's ex. Stunning, polished, the kind of woman who seemed born to be noticed. She appeared just minutes later, smiling like she owned the room. Tay didn't even hesitate. He left Amara standing there alone, claiming he needed time. Time for what? Time to choose her over someone else? Time to lie to everyone about what kind of man he really was. Shock and disbelief hit Amara like a wave. Her friends noticed her pale face. Whispers started, cameras flashed, and social media notifications probably exploded within minutes. She was humiliated publicly, right in the middle of what was supposed to be her happiest celebration. The champagne, the laughter, the dancing. Everything around her suddenly felt fake, cruel, like a scene from someone else's life. Amara ran to the quiet corner of the venue, hands shaking, tears spilling freely now. Her dreams, her trust, her love. It all felt like it had been ripped away in an instant. Every moment she had believed in him, every sacrifice she made, every smile she wore for the cameras, it all seemed meaningless now. She realized something stark and terrifying. Her life had just changed forever, and not in the way she had ever imagined. In that night of betrayal, standing alone with the city lights of Lagos twinkling like distant stars, Amara made a silent vow. She would not crumble. She would not let this break her completely. Something inside her stirred. A fire, quiet but relentless, promising that this pain, this humiliation could be turned into her strength. Amara stepped into her modest apartment in Lusaka, the door clicking softly behind her. The familiar walls and faded curtains should have made her feel safe. But tonight nothing felt normal. Every memory of the engagement party replayed in her mind like a cruel movie. Tay's words, the coldness in his eyes, Sada's smug smile. It all hit her over and over. Her chest felt tight, her hands trembling. She was alone, humiliated, betrayed by the person she trusted the most. She sank onto her couch and reached for her phone, calling Zainab, her best friend since university. The moment Zainab answered, Amara's voice broke. She poured out everything. The whispers she had overheard, the shock, the tears, the anger. Zainab listened patiently, letting Amara vent without interruption, her voice steady, offering the kind of comfort only a true friend could give. By the end of the call, Amara felt slightly lighter, but the fire in her chest was still there, simmering quietly, waiting for direction. Alone again, she let her mind wander through memories of their life together. The little notes Tay had written, the dreams they shared about traveling, the promises of building a home together. It all seemed shattered now. Each memory cut deeper than the last. But amidst the grief, a thought emerged. She would not beg. She would not cry on social media or in front of friends. She refused to let anyone see her broken. Not Tay, not Saad, not anyone. Slowly, methodically, she pulled herself up from the couch. She opened her laptop and began researching. First, her legal rights. What protections she had as a fiancé, any contracts, any loopholes she could use. Then Tay's business dealings, his assets, his investments, anything that might give her a leverage point. The more she dug, the more she realized she knew things they didn't expect her to know. Every financial detail, every secret was a potential tool, a way to reclaim what he had tried to take from her. Not just her heart but her dignity. Hours passed like minutes. The grief slowly transformed into focus. Her apartment, once a quiet place of reflection, became her war room. Notes, tabs, and files filled her laptop as she plotted quietly, carefully. Amara wasn't just thinking about revenge. She was thinking about building power, regaining control, and proving first to herself and then to the world that betrayal could not define her. By the time the first light of dawn crept through the window, Amara felt a strange calm. The storm of heartbreak hadn't passed completely, but now it had a purpose. She wasn't broken. She was ready. And in the quiet of her Lusaka apartment, with the city waking slowly outside, Amara began to turn her pain into a plan, one that would make sure no one would ever underestimate her again. Amara had promised herself she wouldn't get drawn back into Tay's world, but when a mutual acquaintance asked for her help with a few minor business tasks, she agreed. It was simple work. Organizing documents, checking emails, making a few calls. She told herself it was just to tie up loose ends. But deep down, curiosity and that quiet spark of determination pushed her forward. She needed to see things clearly for herself. As she went through spreadsheets and old contracts, her eyes caught something unusual. A hidden account that didn't match any of the projects she knew about. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. There it was. A secret startup, quietly built, funded not by Tay's supposed savings, but by Sada's wealthy family. The details of the investments, the strategic partnerships, even the projected profits. It was all there, carefully hidden from the public eye, from her, from anyone Tay wanted to impress. At first, anger surged. How dare he? How dare he build behind her back while pretending she didn't matter? But then, slowly, that anger transformed into clarity. Amara realized something powerful. She knew more than they thought. She had skills, connections, intelligence, and instincts they had underestimated. While Tay and Saad thought they were smart, she had the advantage of understanding the hidden mechanisms of business, finance, and strategy. She had the ability to turn this knowledge into power, quietly, carefully, and decisively. Sitting at her desk in her Lusaka apartment, Amara's mind began racing. She imagined the possibilities. What if she could reclaim not just her dignity, but create her own empire, one that didn't depend on Tay, Saad, or anyone else? What if she could use the secrets she now knew to her advantage? Each idea sparked another. Each calculation seemed achievable. She realized that betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak didn't have to be the end. They could be the beginning. For the first time since the engagement party, she felt a thrill that wasn't fear or pain. It was the quiet thrill of empowerment, of plotting, of taking control. She wasn't going to rush. She wouldn't make mistakes. But a plan was forming, one that would allow her to rise above the people who had tried to break her. She would build, she would create, and she would do it on her own terms. Amara leaned back in her chair, a small, determined smile on her face. The hidden startup was no longer just Tay's secret. It was a key that could unlock her path to independence, success, and revenge without a single public battle. The fire inside her, once fueled by heartbreak, was now fueled by strategy. She had discovered more than an account. She had discovered her own power. Amara couldn't stop thinking about the hidden startup and the unfair advantage Tay and Saad had tried to use. But instead of letting anger control her, she decided to act, smartly, strategically. The first step was reaching out to someone she trusted completely, Obinna Chaik, a respected tech entrepreneur in Accra, Ghana, who had always believed in her talent and intelligence. She hesitated at first, but dialing his number felt like opening a door to possibility. Obinna, she said, her voice steady but determined, I need your guidance. I want to build something new, something big, something that proves I'm not someone to be underestimated. Obinna didn't hesitate. He knew her work, her artistic vision, and her sharp mind. Within days he was mentoring her remotely, offering advice on business strategy, tech integration, and investor connections. Amara began combining her love for art with cutting-edge technology, imagining a brand that could revolutionize fashion in Africa. Unique, interactive designs that could be showcased online and in virtual spaces. She worked late nights, pouring every ounce of energy into her new brand. Each design reflected her story, bold, elegant, unapologetic. When she launched the first collection online, she barely slept, waiting for the response. Then it happened. Her designs went viral. Social media buzzed. Influencers shared her work and investors reached out within hours. The same people who had dismissed her now wanted a piece of her vision. Through it all, she kept her project completely secret from Tay and Saad. She didn't need to announce her comeback. They were busy flaunting their relationship at parties on social media, living in their illusion of power. They had no idea that the woman they thought they had hurt was quietly building something far bigger than either of them could imagine. Amara felt a thrill she hadn't felt since before the betrayal. A mix of empowerment, creativity, and satisfaction. She wasn't just surviving the heartbreak, she was turning it into opportunity, using her skills, her mind, and her connections to rise in the shadows while they flaunted ignorance. Every investor email, every design shared, every compliment received added fuel to her fire. For the first time, Amara truly believed in the power of her own independence. She was no longer the girl who had cried alone in her apartment. She was becoming a force, a rising star in fashion and tech, unstoppable, and ready to reclaim everything that had been stolen from her. And best of all, she was doing it quietly, brilliantly, and on her own terms, while Tay and Saad continued to live in the illusion that nothing had changed. Tay sat comfortably in a luxury lounge in Lagos, surrounded by his wealthy friends, laughing like he had already won at life. A glass of expensive whiskey rested in his hand as someone casually mentioned Amara's name. He smirked, shaking his head with quiet arrogance. Amara, he said, almost amused. She's still stuck making little designs, nothing serious. She doesn't understand real business. His friends chuckled along, nodding, already convinced he had made the right choice by leaving her. In his mind, Amara was part of his past, a small, insignificant chapter he had outgrown. What he didn't know was that while he was busy mocking her, Amara was moving in complete silence. In Johannesburg, South Africa, Amara sat at the head of a sleek glass table, her posture calm but powerful. Across from her were three investors, sharp, experienced, and deeply interested in her vision. They weren't there out of pity. They were there because they saw potential, brilliance, and profit. She had carefully chosen them, people who respected her mind, not just her talent. She spoke confidently, presenting her plans, her expansion ideas, and her long-term strategy. There was no hesitation in her voice anymore. Within weeks, her small idea had turned into a growing company. Amara didn't just create designs, she protected them. She worked closely with lawyers, filing patents for her fashion tech innovations and registering brand trademarks across multiple countries. Every logo, every concept, every digital feature was now legally hers. No one could copy it. No one could steal it. She was building something untouchable. Late at night, back in her apartment, she would sometimes pause and think about everything that had happened. The heartbreak, the humiliation, the tears. But instead of pain, she now felt focus. Every document she signed, every deal she closed, was proof that she was no longer the same woman Tay had left behind. Meanwhile, Tay continued living carelessly, posting photos with Saad, attending parties, enjoying attention that he never once stopped to wonder what Amara was doing. He had already decided she was weak, already decided she was nothing. That was his biggest mistake, because while he laughed, Amara built. While he talked, Amara secured her future. While he underestimated her, Amara quietly created an empire piece by piece. And the most dangerous part wasn't her success. It was the fact that he still had no idea who she was becoming. The night of the gala in Nairobi, Kenya, was unlike anything Amara had ever experienced. The venue was breathtaking, filled with crystal lights, elegant guests, celebrities, investors, and the biggest names in African fashion and tech. Cameras flashed non-stop, reporters whispered excitedly, and everyone was waiting for the highlight of the night, the launch of a mysterious new fashion tech brand that had been trending online for weeks. That brand was hers. Backstage, Amara stood in front of the mirror, her heart beating fast. She wasn't nervous in the old way anymore. She wasn't the girl begging for love. She was the woman who had built something powerful from nothing but pain and determination. Her team stood behind her, adjusting the final details, looking at her with respect. This was her moment. Out in the crowd, Tay and Saad arrived together, dressed to impress. Saada's hand rested confidently on Tay's arm as they walked in, smiling proudly, expecting another night where they would feel superior. They had heard about the event but had no idea who was behind it. When they saw Amara's name in the program, they exchanged surprised looks, and then small mocking smiles. "She really thinks she made it," Saad whispered. Tay smirked. "Let's watch." The lights dimmed. Music filled the room. The first models walked out wearing Amara's designs. Bold, futuristic, stunning. The crowd reacted instantly. Phones came out. People leaned forward. Whispers turned into excitement. Then suddenly everything changed. The final spotlight turned on. And Amara walked out herself. She wasn't hiding anymore. She walked slowly, confidently, her head high, her eyes calm and fearless. She wore her signature design, a breathtaking piece that reflected strength, elegance, and power. The room went silent for a second. Then the applause exploded. People stood up. Cameras flashed wildly. Her name spread through the crowd like fire. "That's Amara Ndlovu. She's the founder. She's brilliant." Tay froze in his seat. His smile disappeared. Saada's confident expression cracked. They hadn't expected this. They hadn't expected her. Amara didn't look at them directly, but they could see it in her presence. She was no longer the woman they had left behind. She didn't need their approval. She didn't need their love. She had built her own name. Media rushed forward. Investors stood, clapping loudly. Influencers posted instantly. Within minutes, her brand was trending across Africa. And for the first time, the humiliation had changed direction. The same people who had once watched Amara cry were now watching her rise. Tay felt small, invisible, powerless. He had laughed at her. He had underestimated her. And now the entire world was watching her win. Amara reached the end of the runway and paused, looking out at the crowd. Not with anger, not with sadness, but with quiet victory. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was transformation. And everyone could see it. After the Nairobi gala, everything changed for Amara. Her phone didn't stop ringing. Investors, business magazines, and powerful people wanted to meet her. But Amara stayed calm. She didn't let the attention distract her. She remembered her real goal. This was never just about fashion. This was about power, respect, and control over her own future. One evening, sitting in her office and reviewing business reports, she saw something familiar. It was Tay's startup, the same secret company he had built with Saada's family money. But now things were different. The company needed more funding to expand. And Amara noticed something important. Some of the investors Tay had once ignored, people he thought were too small, were now reaching out again looking for opportunities. This time they were reaching out to her. Amara saw the opportunity instantly. She arranged private meetings, speaking confidently, showing them her success, her vision, and her strength. These investors trusted her. They believed in her. And slowly, carefully she made her move. Instead of attacking Tay directly, she invested through legal channels. Quietly, professionally, strategically, paper by paper, signature by signature. She bought shares, not enough to attract attention at first, but enough to matter. Weeks later, during one of Tay's company meetings, the updated ownership report was presented. Tay scanned the document casually, then suddenly froze. He saw her name, Amara Ndlovu. He blinked, thinking it was a mistake, but it wasn't. She owned part of his company. His hands felt cold. His chest tightened. The same woman he had left, the same woman he had laughed at. She was now part of his empire, and there was nothing he could do about it. Meanwhile, Amara sat peacefully in her office, high above the city, sunlight falling across her desk. She didn't celebrate loudly. She didn't brag. She simply continued working, signing documents, expanding her reach. Every move she made was legal. Every step was clean. Every decision was smart. She didn't need revenge through anger. She chose revenge through success. Tay tried to call her. She didn't answer. He sent messages. She didn't reply. For the first time he was the one being ignored. For the first time he was the one without control. Amara looked out of her window, calm and confident. She hadn't just rebuilt her life. She had rewritten the balance of power. The woman he thought he had discarded was now a force inside his world. And the most painful truth for Tay wasn't losing control. It was realizing he had created his own downfall. The message from Tay had been sitting in Amara's inbox for days. He asked for a meeting. He said it was important. Months ago she would have replied immediately, her heart full of hope. But now she took her time. She finally agreed, giving him a date, a time and an address. Her new office in Cape Town. The building itself was a symbol of everything she had become. Tall glass walls, shining floors, quiet confidence in every corner. When Tay walked in he looked around slowly, clearly shocked. This wasn't the small, struggling Amara he remembered. This was someone else. Someone powerful. Amara walked into the room calmly, dressed in a clean, elegant white suit. She didn't rush. She didn't smile nervously. She simply sat across from him, her posture straight, her eyes steady. For a moment Tay just stared at her. "Amara, you look incredible," he said softly, trying to smile the way he used to. She didn't react. He leaned forward. "I've been meaning to talk to you. I think maybe we made mistakes. Maybe I made a mistake." She stayed silent, letting him speak. "You know," he continued, his voice smoother now, "we had something special. Not everyone finds that kind of love. I was under pressure. I was confused. But seeing you now, I realize what I lost." Amara looked at him carefully. This was the same man who once said love wasn't enough. Now he was talking about love again. She finally spoke, her voice calm and clear. "Love wasn't enough for you," she said. Tay froze. She continued, "But intelligence, perseverance and dignity, they were enough for me." The words hit harder than any shout ever could. Tay didn't know what to say. For the first time he had no charm, no confidence, no control. He looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she didn't need him anymore. Not emotionally, not financially, not at all. "I never expected this," he admitted quietly. "I did," Amara replied. Not because she had expected his betrayal, but because she had decided who she would become after it. Through the glass wall behind him he noticed someone standing in the hallway. Saad. She had come with him. Watching. Waiting. Amara stood up slowly. This meeting was over. She didn't insult him. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her success had already said everything. She walked past him toward the door. Tay turned slightly, watching her. The woman he had once left behind was now completely out of his reach. Saad stepped back as Amara walked past her. Neither of them spoke. They didn't have the power to. Amara continued walking down the hallway, her heels echoing softly, her face calm, her heart free. She wasn't walking away in pain. She was walking forward in victory. And this time, she didn't look back. Years later, Amara Ndlovu had become a name people spoke with respect. She was no longer just a designer. She was a billionaire entrepreneur, the owner of a powerful fashion tech empire with offices in Lagos, Lusaka, Johannesburg, and Nairobi. Her companies employed thousands of people. Her ideas shaped the future of African fashion and technology. Everywhere she went, cameras followed and people wanted to hear her story. Magazines featured her on their covers with headlines like, "The Woman Who Turned Betrayal into Empire." But for Amara it was never just about money or fame. It was about proving to herself that her value had never depended on anyone else. She didn't forget where she came from. She spent time mentoring young African women, inviting them into her offices, listening to their dreams and sharing her truth honestly. She told them, never shrink yourself for someone else. Never depend on love alone. Build your own strength, your own future. To them she wasn't just a billionaire. She was proof that pain could be turned into power. One evening, Amara stood alone in her Nairobi penthouse, looking out at the glowing city skyline. The lights stretched endlessly, like a reminder of how far she had come. The same continent where she had once cried in silence now celebrated her success. She placed her hands gently on the glass and smiled, not because of revenge but because of peace. She had lost love. She had lost trust. But she had found herself. And now her life, her future, and her empire belonged to only one person.